Hi, this is Ted Rogers on History by the Plate. Now, think on this. Every time you make a meal for somebody, you actually change that individual. Well, at least on the cellular level. And at first that may not sound like much, but when you really let that sink in, then you start to realize that, hey, wait a minute, there's a sense of responsibility there. There's even an obligation there. There's, in fact, a sense of a stewardship responsibility that goes along with making a meal for somebody. But I'm going to say that cooking for somebody doesn't even end there. There's much more to it. Now, bear with me here. We're going to go back 20 years in my history anyway, to when my wife and I were doing missions work in Avecia, that's a slum area, about an hour south of Buenos Aires, Argentina. Now, it was midsummer here, so that means midwinter there. And we met a young lady, in fact, she was actually our translator when we first started, that we did a few what we considered minor favors for. We didn't think that we were doing anything major. However, she and her family saw it very differently. They interpreted that the things that we had done on her behalf as life-changing for her, and that was a very humbling realization for Glenda and I, to the point that when we were getting ready to leave Argentina, this young lady's mother insisted on making us a going-away breakfast. And we thought to ourselves, how sweet. Isn't that kind? Well, we showed up at 7 o'clock in the morning on the day that we were leaving at this young lady's mother's house. It was in the Vecia we were working at. It was a cinder block structure that had only a sheet for a door. We showed up at 7 o'clock. It was maybe 25 degrees Fahrenheit outside. Where the holes in the cinder block structure were for windows, there were only strips of thin cloth. We entered, and within the house, we quickly saw that it was a dirt floor house. And in the corner of the combination kitchen and dining room, there was this antique kerosene-fueled oven and stove that had to be at least 50 years old. But what caught our eye was when we looked at the dining room table, it was filled with the most amazing pastries you have ever seen, and still to this day, the most amazing pastries I had ever tasted. You see, this young lady's mother had gotten up at 2 o'clock in the morning to make these pastries for us as a thank you for what we considered minor things that we had done for her family, for her child. And these pastries were filled with homemade dulce de leche, homemade chocolate. And as we thanked her for what she had done, this amazing meal that she had made, she started crying tears of joy, and I realized that there was more than incredible pastry, there was more than dulce de leche, there was more than homemade chocolate. That the main ingredient in this meal that we were eating, the main thing that I was tasting, was love. It was the first time that I'd ever tangibly tasted love as the main ingredient in a meal. And that filled us to the brim. Now, jump forward with me a couple of decades. A few years back, I was in India for several months, and I had a chance to take cooking lessons in New Delhi's premier cooking school, Saffron Palette. Saffron Palette is run by my now very good friend, Neha Gupta. And Neha worked with me very patiently for a good 10 to 12 hours that day. teaching me to cook Indian cuisine. And it was a delightful, delightful time. But as we were doing this, we talked about a slew of different things. And one of the things we talked about was how, from my Christian tradition as a pastor and missionary, it's common for us to pray a prayer of thanks before we eat the meal. Now, Neha turned that around and informed me that from her Hindu tradition, especially when one is cooking for family members they love, people they find important, that one of the keys of cooking in their tradition is to pray blessings over the food as they're cooking it. Now, truth is always truth wherever you find it. Now, from these two very simple but very moving, at least to me, encounters, I came to understand that when we make a meal for someone, yeah, we can infuse it with all the skill we have in the world. But that's a technical act. We can, however, also choose to infuse the food that we make for others with love, a ministry to their hearts. We can choose also to bathe the preparation of that meal in prayer, a nourishment for the souls of those who are going to be eating it. So not only is cooking a basic stewardship responsibility for physical nutrition, it also provides an opportunity to convey love. It also provides an opportunity to give something of nourishment to the souls that we are cooking for. Now try to find that in a box that you're buying in the freezer section, frozen food section of your grocery store, or in a carry-out bag. No, cooking well is a stewardship, yes, but it is also a gift that we can give to others. It is also a ministry. So, here's to you, my friends. This is Ted Rogers on History by the Plate.